Good day everyone, thank you for joining us and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Today I'm going to be joined by some of our agents and we're going to be discussing the events leading to Freedom Day back in 1994. How old were you at that time?
1994, I was 22 years old.
My memory serves me well, I think I was 26.
Can you recall the events leading to the first election in 1994?
Well, there are a lot of events that I can recall leading to the elections. The main things that were happening, the events that were happening, there were a lot of violence that was happening. More especially in the townships, there were a lot of killings before the election. That was the main thing that was happening. The country was really in touch before the elections.
You were not allowed to read certain books, and you had to hid them away because you had police at any given time. They would come to your house, knock on the door, or break the door, get in, search everyone in the house. And if you've got certain books that you had just hide them away because you knew if we found books like that, you'd be arrested. Yeah, for instance, this was this book that I liked to read at the time. Even now, still with your book, I write what I like. So that book, that carried a lot of information because it was teaching the people that to be independent and to things on their own. So politically, it was a book that was not allowed to be read in public, or if you found such a book, you'd be arrested. So
there were a lot of killings more especially between the African National Congress supporters and the Inkatha Freedom Party supporters. Yeah, so that was the unfortunate situation that was happening prior to the elections, because there were a lot of killings. There were places which were called a no-go. There were no-go zone, which means that people who were supporting the African National Congress, the ANC, were not allowed to go and campaign into those areas. Vice versa, people who were supporting the Inkatha Freedom Party were not allowed to go and canvass into those areas that were dominated by the African National Congress. But just to highlight, there were a lot of people who got killed before the elections that were pushing for the political freedom.
What did this momentous day mean for you and your family as well as your friends?
The day of election was very exciting for every black man in the country. Because I remember on the day of election, everyone woke very early to be on the voting stations. To be the first on the queue, it was so exciting to everybody because that was actually leading to freedom to express your views and write what you like. And in that time, so apart from the job opportunities, it was like more doors to be opened. You could get this. After that, you could get your bursary if you apply for bursary and study. You can study everywhere, wherever you want to study, universities and everywhere. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, back then it was like we are saying, if we go through the elections, these killings will stop. We were expecting the new dawn in South Africa. We were expecting the integrated South Africa. The integrated communities, because remember, prior to the elections, the races were split apart. So there were blacks this side, whites this side, and so on and so on. So we were looking at the integrated community, integrated families, integrated races, whereby everybody is equal. Because prior to the elections, other races were deprived opportunities. So we were looking at saying, everybody in South Africa will have equal opportunities.
There's been a great deal of improvement because apart from scarcity of job opportunities, but people are able to create their own jobs these days and work wherever they want to go and not restricted, can open business. Black people are able to open their businesses now and trade the way they want to trade. So there are more restrictions as it was before.
Between 1994 and now, to what extent do you think that the unity between the races has benefited to the democracy of this country?
Well, it has improved. It has benefited the community at large, because if you look at the schools now. If you look at the schools now, you will find mixed races in the schools, which is something that was not there prior to 1994. And there were industries also in commerce and industry. There were industries that were dominated mainly by whites. Now opportunities are opened to everybody.
Whereas in those times, there was times where you were restricted to live in certain areas, like the Group Areas Act, where certain race couldn't live, especially in the white so-called areas, what we call today suburbs. So that is why you see black people in suburbs now, they buy homes, they live wherever they want to live. There are no more restrictions, which made life very difficult in those times.
Awesome, that's good.
Although there are still those industries which are still dominated by other races because of the past or because of the apartheid. But now, if we look at now, opportunities are open to everybody. The gap because of apartheid still exists. We cannot deny that.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all your inputs today.